The Ben Simmons is a top 5 defender in the league thing is real. Jaylen is one of the best wings in the league. I can see him as an 8 to 10 year all-star. So this was the exercise. I asked 3 scouts about both players and asked them to compare them. I will now read you the scouting reports that I got from the scouts. All right, here we go. This is scout number 1 on Ben Simmons first. Quote, I can understand the perception as it relates to Ben Simmons that you may have this guy who was the number 1 recruit in high school, the number 1 pick in the draft, rookie of the year, made all-star second year. If you took guys that fit that mold, if you look at that list, a lot of guys that became MVPs, first-team All-NBA guys that went on to become franchise-type players. So I understand how his early accomplishments on paper put him in the category of a franchise player. That said, I don't believe he's on that trajectory. I think that his lack of improvement, some of which may be related to his approach, hard for me to know from a distance, his lack of improvement as a shooter, lack of development of overall game, glaring holes in his game that make it hard for him to be good unless he's exactly in the perfect environment, perfect teammates, perfect coaches, the opposition that has some kind of weakness that he can exploit. That, to me, makes him less valuable than people think that he is. Because in the right circumstance, when everything is good, the guy, Ben Simmons, is awesome. But there are a lot of circumstances where he's not awesome, including the circumstances he encounters in the playoffs. You're playing good defenses that are locked in on you, game plan for you, take away your weaknesses, less transition because teams are getting back on defense. If you're trying to build a team that can do much more than just make the playoffs, because he's done that in Philly, when you're trying to take that next step, conference finals, NBA finals, if he's going to be the number 1, number 2 option on a team trying to get there, I don't think he's a great piece. He's a hard piece to fit other players with. I think he's an easy piece to take out of his best stuff in the playoffs. At a certain point, lumping him in with the other players that were the number 1 picks, MVPs, Rookie of the Years, and what that trajectory usually looks like, he's not that kind of guy. I think that this has become more and more evident as time goes along. Okay, so I asked him about Jaylen. Same draft class. I had Brandon Ingram over Ben Simmons before the draft for stated concerns. The stated concerns above. Jaylen is a guy that had a lot of flaws as a prospect. Nobody knew that he turned into what he turned into. You're taking a gamble on a guy like that, but big, long, athletic. He's a wing player that had a chance to be a guy who could dribble, pass, and shoot, defend multiple positions, and the type of player that could fit with other good players. A game that could scale well into a playoff environment, could use in multiple ways on and off the ball. Use him in multiple defensive matchups that you might face in the playoffs. That versatility and how he fits with other good players and still be valuable on offense when defenses take away your best stuff. He's evolved into a player that has all of those things. And I think in the long term, if you're a team that's trying to win in the playoffs, you'd rather have him than Ben Simmons. I asked, a quick follow-up, what kind of gap are we talking about? He said, quote, Jaylen Brown is the better player to win in the playoffs than Ben Simmons. If you're just trying to win some regular season games and you can build a team around one guy, there's a case to be made that Ben Simmons is the better focal point of a mediocre team. But if you're trying to win in the playoffs and you have other good players, I think Jaylen is the better player, will do more to help you win in the playoffs, and I think he's trending up more than Simmons, and I think that gap will only increase. End quote. Okay. So, 1 vote for Jaylen there. That was interesting, though, because he was... It sounds like a knock when he goes, if you want to make Ben Simmons the focal point of a mediocre team, and that's fine. Like, I think what he's saying is that Simmons' talent level allows you to have him be the main guy, but if he's your main guy, there's a ceiling where he's not saying Jaylen's necessarily the main guy, I'd just rather have Jaylen. All right. Another scout, Ben Simmons, quote, still needs to get stupid passes out of his game, but is playing better now, even with a reduced scoring role. Applaud Ben a lot for taking slightly more of a backseat scoring and his stepped up effort defensively. The Ben Simmons is a top 5 defender in the league thing is real. Had it down when he came out that if he cared, he could be a monster on that end and be a legit 5-position defender, and has clearly stepped up on that end in the last 18 months. Scoring will always be a struggle, but like the 3 he took against the Magic in the first quarter when the game was tied, but would have liked to see another when the game got away. Looks better in Doc's system and doesn't have to force as much. Has done it a few times and looked best, ironically, against Washington, but want to see more of taking the ball down to a designed clear out for a Ben post-up. We'll always wonder what if playing with Joel in this era, and that is not going to go away. If either player played with a shooter instead of the other guy, it could be even more deadly. But if Embiid is going to be this locked in and actually in shape too, they actually look primed to be a real contender in the East. I played only one team who finished over 500 last year so far, but appreciate Ben and Philly as a whole not taking their foot off the gas. Remains to be seen, obviously, if this keeps up. but Ben is playing like a legit Defensive Player of the Year candidate, an elite playmaker that puts him as a core level player. Okay, here he is on Jaylen Brown. Quote, contrast Jaylen with Ben. Jaylen will never be as good unless he's the second option defensively. And what he means by that is the team's number one guy who they want to shut down is Tatum, right? And so he's saying, okay, Jaylen can produce, but it's only because he's the second concern for the opponent's defense, all right? But he's taking full advantage of not being defended by the best defender on the other team. Can't possibly see numbers keeping up all year, but right now have to appreciate the insane shooting percentage Jaylen has put up early. Should note that top scoring outings happen against teams that are young, banged up, or in the first game and haven't played much together with their current group, but impressive nonetheless. All right, that's a bit of a warning there. Look, some of these Jaylen numbers are so off the charts that, obviously it's going to regress somewhat. Shooting with zero fear. Shot still a tick slower and still thinks a little bit before pulling it, but is athletic and long enough that it hasn't been much of an issue. 50% from the side above the break so far. Big-time finisher still with how Jaylen is shooting, able to get his man off easy and attack the rim. Increased playmaking responsibilities with point guard play down right now, which is why he loves playing with Pritchard so much, but is a smart enough player to add more. Even when Kemba is back, I guess he's saying he'll be good. Still defending the best perimeter player as well. Love the intensity on that end and still competing even with more shots and a higher usage rate. Is the perfect second fiddle. Stop if you heard this before, but I think Boston is legit 1 year away now with Jaylen and Tatum getting more accustomed to their new roles. But with play of experience already, there could see another trip to the conference finals with the uncertainty of what Philly, Brooklyn, Miami, Milwaukee look like. I did a quick follow-up with him, and I said, okay, what about the gap, though? And I said, do you think you would take Ben? And he goes, quote, as crazy as it sounds, I would. Maybe that's me being soft, but I think there's a world where Ben is the best player on a conference finals team, and I just don't see that with Jaylen. Okay, so one vote for Ben Simmons. Let's get to the tiebreaker. Final one. Okay, Jaylen Brown first. Jaylen's one of the best wings. Again, quote, Jaylen is one of the best wings in the league. Excellent size, 6'7", 220, good length. Very athletic, plays hard. One of the best two-way players at his position in the league. I can see him as an 8 to 10-year all-star if he stays healthy. He has not had a history of injuries. Offense, excellent in transition. He can get to the rim, finish with either hand. Very good strength to take contact and finish. Runs hard in transition. Can play some secondary pick and roll. And is good getting downhill. Excellent in the dribble handoff game, turning the corner. Not a great passer. His career assist turnover ratio, 1.5 to 1.5. He's worked to improve his mid-range and three-point shooting. I know the assistants, and they rave about his offseason work ethic. 40% corner three shooter over the last 2 seasons. Would expect that to improve. Good back cutter when overplayed. Inconsistent offensive rebounder. Defense, first off, his give-a-shit level defensively is very high. Take pride on that end and is versatile. Can guard 1 to 4 with switching ability. Versus small fives, he can guard them. Long, tough, and active. Gets his hands on a lot of balls. He and Marcus Smart give them 2 great perimeter defenders. Good isolation and pick-and-roll defender. Gets hit on screens and keeps coming to square the ball. Excellent laterally for his size. Jaylen Brown is one of the 10 best wing players in the league. Okay, let's go to Ben Simmons here from the same scout. Offense, quote, has finishing ability with both hands, will shoot the floater with his right hand very comfortably. He just glides down the court, but is fast as well. In a half-court set, the lack of shooting is obvious. Defenders can go under, but must square the ball or he's at the rim. He is unselfish by nature, wants to pass first unless he's at the rim. Off the ball, he is very good in the dunker for drop-off passes. Very poor perimeter shooter, and like he doesn't look at the rim. Total non-three-point shooter. Doc says he's not concerned, but come playoff time, he will be. He must improve as a free throw shooter, especially in the playoffs. Career 60% on 5 attempts per game. I know some of what's going on in Philly the past 3 seasons. One of his problems is he does not put in the time to improve. Don't believe the IG or Twitter workouts you see his brother post. It's all phony. He does not work on his shooting. Everyone can see the mechanical problems, but he is not and probably will not address it. He loves LA and spends most of his time there in the offseason. He definitely has some Hollywood in him. If he ever gets serious about improving his shooting and free throws, he could be as good as Giannis, but I don't think he's wired that way. Lots of cool guy with him. Defense, excellent. Size to defend 1 through 5, quick and strong, can guard switches, very good chase down and weak side shot blocker. Rebounds out of his area and starts to break. Usually does not defend the opposing point guard, and that creates cross message to his advantage offensively. He could easily average a triple-double, and I think he will at some point. The concern with him will be shooting in the playoffs. They've done a good job to surround him with shooting and a dominant center. Take either of those away, and he will struggle to win. I can see him being an all-NBA and one of the best point guard wings for the next 8 to 10 years, much like Jaylen. Final thoughts. I would take Jaylen over Ben moving forward the next 8 to 10 years. There's very little separation on difference defensively. Both are excellent in today's game. Shooting is so important, and Jaylen is clearly better and always will be, in my opinion. Both are fantastic open court players. Jaylen also has a more serious workman-like approach to improving. So, I was surprised. I was surprised by that because I still feel like the perception around the two players is that Ben's the guy that you would want. Like if you're a Houston Rockets fan and you traded for Ben Simmons or Jaylen Brown, who would you be happier about? It'd probably be Ben Simmons, right? But that I was not expecting. I mean, look, that's 2 of 3 that said that. The other guy wanted to go with Ben Simmons. I'm sure he could find 10 scouts that all think it's Ben Simmons. But in the sampling of this with 3 different people, a lot of people have different contacts. There you go. I thought that was really interesting.